Veronica Simeoni. Hello.
Hello, Deb.
Thank you for coming to Chasing the Win. You have been in bidding, dare I say, for a long time.
Yes.
And I'm really, really glad you could join us. You've worked in strategic pursuits and submissions across all sorts of sectors: water, transport, civil infrastructure. And obviously, we've known each other a number of years now, and I've really appreciated the time that we've spent together. So thank you so much.
I really appreciate the call outs.
You're an exceptional advocate for tendering as a profession and an art form. And I guess that comes from having had a long career in it. What initially drew you into submission management, and what have you found that sort of led to that longevity in the area?
So I started my career at Multiplex in this sort of space, I suppose, in the civil and then building infrastructure space. Worked for a fantastic general manager, John Gaskin there, who really just launched my curiosity, which will be a word I use a lot, into the space. And he was just really included you into everything. So you sort of, knew every crane on the skyline sort of a thing. So I think I really thrived in that environment, and that's what really got me interested in that space. At the time, it was a long time ago, almost 30 years ago. So I think the role of a submissions manager at that point was really quite unknown. And so that role came to be in that business. I took that role on and really dedicated my time to just working on the bids that we worked on some fantastic things, Portside Wharf, Lang Park, all of those really cool jobs that that's really interesting. And they're the things that I think I really loved and enjoyed. And then I think going forward, what has sustained that is a similar sort of love for infrastructure. So whether it was buildings in the beginning and now more the last sort of part of my career has been in the civil infrastructure space, not as shiny, roads and bridges and wastewater and water. But what I think the thread across all those things is that you're working with people who are building infrastructure, and I love to see what they're building, and I love to understand what they're building, and I keep going back to that curiosity. And even when I recruit people, I talk a lot about that, being curious, because to me that's what has sustained me in this space for so long, for that 30 years. I just love the knowing and seeing and talking to people.
You can have this multifaceted skill set that goes with being a submissions manager or a tenderer in general. But then the subject matter changes constantly.
Oh, constantly. Yeah, constantly.
You're learning constantly, and that curiosity just keeps you going. Yeah. And I don't know about you, I find, you mentioned Portside and other places, I find you've done the tender, the company wins the business, and then it comes out of the ground.
Yes.
And you're like, I wrote some of that. I wrote about those pipes.
I like to claim that I actually named Portside Wharf in a tender.
Okay, good.
I don't know if I can claim that, but I did.
I'm happy to give you credit for it. Why not? And then in those roles, as you've moved through sort of submission management roles, generally writing, stakeholder management, coordination of subject matter experts and teams and different technical dynamics, what do you then see as the sort of the core capabilities of a submission professional? What makes us an exceptional submission professional?
Yeah, and that's a really difficult question, I think, to answer, because there is such a myriad of skills that you need in this space. And I think I don't have to tell you, looking for that unicorn who has so many skills, because you need to write, you need to coordinate, you need to be a people person, you need to also, know when to bring people in. So there's so many skills, I think. But if I had to pick something out that then took someone from being, because everyone's got skills, from being sort of, really competent in what they do, to someone who I think is really exceptional in what they do, and you can see that they're just going to thrive. I think having a little bit of that maturity around that stakeholder piece, and it goes back to what you were saying before. The beauty of the role is that it is so dynamic all the time, but you need to be a really high planner, but also quite adaptable. Yes. So the ability to have some maturity when the goalposts will change, because they will.
They will.
And you have to be able to say, okay, what's plan B? What's plan C? So I think not everyone can do that well, whether that's like a natural aptitude some people obviously have for that, or whether it's a maturity that some people have for that. So I suppose that's that internal stakeholder management kind of piece because without that, without being able to bring the team together and keep everyone on track, the best and most skilled people and the smartest people in the room, you can't get it down on paper well in a good time.
I totally and utterly agree. I mean, the stakeholder management, even on the smallest tender, is complex.
Yeah.
And that's because we go through this cycle of human dynamics every time we do a bid. You know, every bid comes together and they form and they storm.
Yeah.
And then they norm, and then eventually they might perform. But it's really the submission manager that brings everybody together to be able to finally put all of that human dynamic on paper to submit. And that takes enormous skill.
Yeah. And I think what comes to mind, and it's those spinning plates. I always say to people, it's like the spinning plates, you know, you sort of set one off, set another one off, set one off, and then you have to go to the beginning and sort of set it off again. But when everything's going and you've got a lot of people in the room doing a lot of work, I feel that the team needs to look over at that bid production team, whether it's writers, submissions managers, coordinators, whoever it is, that core team, they need to look over and go, everything's under control. Once that team, that core bid production team starts panicking and, you know, flying off, and you lose what should be that calm in that chaos. And I think that goes back to that whole maturity. Don't get me wrong, we can all it's okay to be stressed and it's okay to have all those things, that's fine. But the ability to then reset and just stay calm. Okay, what's the solution here? What do we need to do? In all of the chaos when everything's going on, that's what people look to. It's like the duck, you know, in the water and the feet underneath.
That's what I call one of my people in Perth. I call her our duck because
exactly.
she skims across the water, but her feet are going badly.
Underneath. And no one needs to know that.
And no one needs
we need
to know that.
And we support those people because they need us to recognise, and we know that.
Yes. But everyone else just needs to see the duck skimming across it. Yeah, I totally agree. That you've embarked on an MBA because you're a crazy woman who decided to have a massive career in an incredibly stressful field and also go back to study.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what your research project is, a capstone, is about, because I'm really interested in the topic.
Yeah, so I've finished now.
Oh, have you? Are you at you MBA?
Yes, I am. I'm done. Completed
Fabulous.
about 12 months ago now. So
Congratulations.
amazing. So it was really good. I ended up doing the capstone at the end, which you kindly provided me with some research advice into, and the people at Tender Plus as well. So the capstone was really on this, what I called the report in the end was fragmentation to formalization. 40% of new business revenue, I think my research showed, comes in through bids. So when you think about that, that's quite an important piece. There's also then obviously it gets sustained through repeat business and everything once it comes in the door. It's quite an important function within a business. And I don't think any business doesn't not recognize that. The research showed that more than 80%, which I think we already know, of people working in our space are degree qualified. I know myself that the majority of people will have a Bachelor of Business or marketing or comms, seem to be the typical ones in that submission space.
That's really interesting that more than 80% of people are degree qualified, because regardless of that, I don't know anyone that didn't fall into tendering.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's never really been something that has an intentional career path behind it. From your research, what recommendations did you make for, really bringing tendering to the fore as a career?
Yes, there were 3 core recommendations. 2 of the recommendations from a practical perspective, and you focused on building in more formal qualifications in the tertiary space.
Yeah.
For
really
post-employment.
So encouraging
micro-credentials,
yes,
graduate sort of diplomas, that type of thing.
So is this where I plug the fact there is now a strategic tendering micro-credential?
So, and micro-credentials and postgraduate, as you've already started with your micro-credentials.
Yeah.
So really important space, because that will provide some visibility.
Yeah.
And it's an easy place to start from. And also for universities, because universities will need to understand that there's actually a need for this type of professional training within that tertiary system. And so the third and the big sort of thunderbolt that I would love to see is that there is like a new business bid type of major within, I would think, a Bachelor of Business.
Yeah.
And it sits there as part of that undergraduate offering.
Yes.
And that's where it should be. And it gives visibility to school leavers that this is an opportunity and this is actually a career path. And that's where you get to that intentional career path.
Yeah. As you know, I've been advocating for this for a long time. And, I did launch a diploma of business development and tendering. Cancer got in the way of it continuing. But, if there's any universities out there listening today, hello, you've got two people here that are absolutely advocating that tendering needs to become part of a major or minor of a tertiary qualification, if not a degree in and of itself.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully there's an opportunity for industry to partner with a university and make that happen.
Fingers crossed. Moving a little bit forward into something else, you mentioned before that, we talked about the duck, and tenders often require somebody to bring the calm to chaos. How do you personally create sort of structure and clarity in a really dynamic and complex bid environment?
Personally, or with my team, it goes back to the 101, structure, writing plan, review gates, bronze, silver, gold. You need to have the structure.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have good planning in place. You need to have the right people in place. It is really fundamental, not really hard to think about those foundations of what you need in that space.
I find it somewhat ironic that, every project that we implement off the back, or that our organisations implement off the back of a tender, is planned and managed. And yet so often in tendering, a tender is not treated like a project and managed as
100%.
such. And isn't that what people need to take away? That a tender is a project. It has a cycle.
Yep.
It needs to be structured and it needs to be managed as a project. It's kind of not rocket science, and yet sometimes organisations are left to flail around as though a tender isn't a project.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in my space, I'll probably apologise to all the engineers out there now that I'm going to say this, but I will often say it's no different to building a road. You have a program in place.
That's it.
You have a practical completion date. You have a start date, and you have sections of the road that you need to hand over.
Milestones in between.
You have procurement, critical path, all the rest of that.
Yeah.
This is no different. So you don't have a practical completion date of the 10th of March, and then on the 9th of March, you have all of your materials turn up, and then the next day the road is open. So it's no different and exactly the same. It's exactly the same. It's a Gantt chart. It's a planning process. There's milestones. So the amount of times when things don't go well, and I will go back and I'll, the first thing, well, how did this happen with the review process? And 9 times out of 10, the review process has failed.
Bidding's really collaborative. I mean, even on the smallest jobs, there's collaboration. What have you found most effective when trying to bring together, engineering, commercial, operations, BD? How do you pull it all together smoothly, but more from a kind of personal dynamic kind of way rather than what we just talked about, a tender needs to be managed as a project?
You can't do that without the foundation that we just spoke about, definitely. The collaboration piece, I think, is like all collaborative pieces. We're now talking about the people in the room, especially if you're on a big bid where it's, you've got 4 or 5 businesses, organizations coming together. You might have 100 people working in a co-located place, and you've got 4 months to bring together a huge amount of deliverables.
Yeah.
And you want everyone to collaborate. So the expectations of the team, the behaviors of the team all need to be set at that early onboarding kickoff piece, which I think sometimes gets forgotten.
It does. It sets the scene. And we come back to that human dynamics. It happens every time. Even if you know each other exceptionally well, you're still forming and storming right at the beginning of that group dynamic process. And so you need to do it every single time. Clarity of roles and responsibilities.
And leadership. So what comes with that is leadership. So appointing the right bid manager for the right bid. So often, we will put in the bid manager will be the person who maybe is going to deliver the project. That makes natural sense from a technical commercial perspective. But I think that we also need to, as organizations, we also need to think about the right bid manager in there, because that leadership role, and they set the culture. And we can do any sort of onboarding at the beginning, and we can talk about respect and all those things, but you really need someone who's actually then going to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And you need that right person in there.
Yeah. And if you get that wrong at the beginning, that's often where bids fail.
Culture falls down, and people aren't happy.
Yeah.
People are already working under stress, and it's just not a great environment to be, a part of. And no one wants that when they show up to work in the day.
I remember an experience where, I had 5 organizations on a bid, big PPP. They all came from, very nice environments where the employees were treated well, where they had a chair that actually worked for them, and they were thrust into this bid environment with monitors that didn't work, non-ergonomic chairs. You'll just have to hot seat it.
Yeah, all
Just
of that.
air conditioning that didn't work properly. How long are we going to be here? We're going to be here 5 months. Okay, that's great. You're putting humans on a project, or in an organization, you treat them, you have HR, you surround them with the scaffolding they need to thrive. But all of a sudden on a bid, it's like, oh no, can't afford that. Just chuck everybody in a room and we'll just see what happens.
If you are going to be there for 5 or 6 months, admin for the team, someone looking after and letting everyone know where they can park their cars. I know this sounds really small, but we are plucking people out of their jobs to come and work on these, in these environments, whether they like it or not. 40% of new business comes from bids. And in my space, in infrastructure, that will be even more. I mean, pretty much everything comes through a competitive bid process.
Yeah. So I guess the call out to organisations is to treat your bids the way you would treat any other aspect of your organisation, with complete and utter respect for the process. Invest in it, plan for it, have structure around it, and appreciate that ultimately it's a human dynamic that's going to win this thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And going back to, I think, what we were speaking about before as well, have the right people with the right skills in the team.
Yeah.
Because that is really fundamental to ensuring that, everything is going to work as well. So don't just throw people in because they're available or whatever. We really have to think about who's going to make this successful. This is a winnable project. This is really important to the business. It's going to give us work for the next 5 years.
Yeah. Treat it as such.
Treat it as such.
Absolutely. Technology and AI, dare I throw it out at you?
I love it.
Oh, good. Excellent. Yay. So rapidly transforming the way bids are done, the way submissions are developed. What are your thoughts?
I think that there's a lot of good things. I'm not a naysayer. Like I'm on and I'm in, but we've got a lot of really smart people. So I hear stories about total bids being like sped out through AI.
Yep.
But then what comes out isn't actually representative of what the company, which kind of makes me cry a little bit, because I know that there's so much rich intelligence that sits inside the company that's not coming through. So I think people who don't know and don't understand our space that we work in think that it's just, it's a silver bullet. Yeah, press the button, here you go.
Yeah.
I think it's going to have a lot of really great advantages. There's a lot of really good skills that I think the rest of us are going to learn as part of it, learning how to prompt, learning how to really get the best of it. What I think that we need to understand is, because there's a lot of sort of shiny products out there being thrown at us, you'd be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phone calls every other week.
Let's just say I get a lot of LinkedIn requests. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the problem here that we're trying to solve? That's where I always come back. And I did a business case for a business that I worked at, or organisation that I worked at recently. Yes, there's lots of things and lots of features that these platforms can provide us with, but what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And in my mind, and this is for me, and everyone can be different, I think one of the biggest advantages or immediate advantages is the retrieval of that rich stored information. So I like it as a tool that can help me with that capture management piece, because there is an awful lot of time going back through records, or we've done this before, or where is it, and having something that can bring that to the fore and allow the smart people in the room to access to that.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. So getting from that 0 to 30% in hours instead of weeks, or days instead of weeks.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The content curation and all of those other features, which I think is the big pieces that everyone's looking at the most. Great. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is not the problem I'm trying to solve. If I could access, if I could spend less time looking for information, that means that I can put my smart people on, as you said, crafting those messages and then getting that value proposition in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what's coming out from a lot of people that I'm talking to is it's a tool, it's a great tool, it's an amazing tool, it's gonna continue to evolve, but ultimately, you have to add the human intellect, the human empathy, and take it as a starting point
Oh,
to build from,
agreed.
and make sure that it is reflective of the client that you're actually pursuing in the first place.
Yeah.
We're all gradually getting to sort of the same footing.
Yeah,
Really.
and you probably are a little bit the same. It does get, yeah, frustrating. You do get sort of people even internally or, sort of providing you with advice around,
Yeah.
we should be doing this, we should be doing that.
I've had these chats and obviously we've had a lot of internal chats. We've landed on a simple mantra internally now, which is we treat anything generated by AI as we would any other subject matter expert. We will critique it, we will quality assure it, we will say when it is mediocre, we will say when it is wonderful. And by treating it that way and recognizing a human is connected to what was produced, that constructive feedback is going straight back to the human as great or lackluster or good starting point, needs work on. We're just not treating it any differently. We recognize it's out of the bottle. We recognize we need it for efficiency. And, we're not naysayers. It's the same, but the journey continues.
I agree.
Yep. For someone aspiring to enter into this messy but fun but kind of wonderful profession that we're in, what advice would you give to the sort of way they go about it and the breadth of skill and resilience they need to survive and thrive in it?
I think being in the right environment with the right team and a good mentor. So you would be the same and you recruit a lot of people, you talk to a lot of younger people who are just starting their careers. And when you hear their stories about where they've come from and why they're looking for a new role, it's oftentimes maybe their role wasn't quite understood in the business that they were in. And so therefore they weren't thriving because they weren't using all their skills. So my advice would be get in with good, like-minded people, work for people that respect the skills and can see the skills and understand the skills and understand this space. Ask questions, be curious, do this role in a sector that you love. I love infrastructure.
Yep.
I'm an infrastructure nerd, buildings, civil, roads, whatever. They're always interesting to me. So I think that's when you will thrive, which is probably the same as any job.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love chatting with you. I'm looking forward to our next coffee when we don't have cameras and microphones involved. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been lovely, really nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.